I'd like to say good evening. Welcome to the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. My name is Peggy Trivison. I'll be your moderator for this evening. Now, this is a school and not a church. Neither are we affiliated with any religious organizations. This school is a nonprofit, non-denominational religious and scientific research organization that is dedicated to showing proof of the existence of Yahweh or Elohim and the operation of the eternal purpose, pattern, and plan operating throughout eternity to this present day. This school was established as a result of a divine vision and revelation given to our founder, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, in the state of Ohio in the year 1931. We were incorporated in the state of California in 1958. Since that time, we have established branch schools across the United States, Canada, and other foreign countries. This Syracuse branch was established in 1969. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Dean of the Syracuse branch, Dr. Patrick Trivison, and our Vice President, Dr. John Cometti. Now, in this school and throughout the lecture this evening, we'll be using a true, correct, and original name and title for the Father, the Word, or Son, and the Holy Spirit, which are contained in the original Hebrew text. The true name of our Heavenly Father is Yahweh. This has been erroneously substituted in most Bibles with the title Lord. For the Word or Son, we use the divine title Elohim. This has been improperly substituted with the title God. And the name of the Holy Spirit manifesting in or out of a physical body is Yahshua. This has been improperly substituted with Jesus or Jesus Christ. Now, Lord and God are titles and not names. The Apostle Paul, filled with the Holy Spirit, tells us in 1 Corinthians 8:5 that there are lords many and there are gods many. We now know that each Lord must have a name and each God must have a name also. Elohim is a title, but unlike Lord and God, Elohim is a divine title, which means that Elohim is the title that your Creator chose for Himself. Jesus is a name, but it's an erroneous name. Excuse me. Minor investigation on your part into Encyclopedia or Dictionary would prove that neither the Hebrew, Greek, nor Latin languages have any character or letter in their alphabet that would produce the sound made by the letter J. Neither was there J in the English language until some 1400 years after the death of the Messiah, therefore making such names as Jesus and Jehovah impossible and untrue renderings of the true name of the Father and His Son. Christ is a title just like Lord and God. Now, Yahweh, our Heavenly Father, is pure spirit. And in His pure spirit state, He is incomprehensible and inscrutable. He is the ultimate source, substance, limits, and bounds of everything. We have Yahweh symbolized on this chart as a cloud. Yahweh is not a cloud. He merely chose a cloud to symbolize Himself because a cloud has no particular or descriptive shape and form. And if you'll take a look at this chart, you'll see that we have the cloud painted all the way around the edges of the chart so that everything on the chart abides within this cloud. In like manner, everything in the universe abides within this pure spirit state of Yahweh. And Yahweh, knowing that man cannot perceive of Him in this pure spirit state, takes on shape and takes on form right within Himself as Yahweh Elohim. This is the Word or Son, a super incorporeal being, that is, having shape and form of a man but without flesh and blood. Now, this visionary shape and form can only be seen by divine vision and only understood by divine revelation. Later on, the self-same Spirit manifested Himself as in a physical body and walked the earth plane as Yahshua Messiah, whom the world has come to know erroneously as Jesus or Jesus Christ. Now, there is only one name given unto salvation, and we must know that name. So the simple yet intelligent question we should ask ourselves is, what was the name of the Savior during the time He walked the earth plane? You can get a better understanding of His name and title by reading a preface to a Holy Name Bible. Now, also in this school, we teach by the divine pattern of the universe. We call it a divine pattern because this is Yahweh's pattern. After Yahweh led the children of Israel out of Egypt and into the wilderness of Sinai, He then called Moses on top of Mount Sinai and revealed this tabernacle pattern to him in a vision. Moses was instructed to return to the wilderness of Sinai and build one exactly as he had seen in the mount. This tabernacle pattern consists of a most holy place, a holy place, and the court round about, these three compartments making up the one tabernacle pattern. In this school, we show proof how that everything is made and operates according to the structure and function of this threefold tabernacle pattern, and absolutely nothing escapes the pattern. In this school, we have 10 primary constitutional aims or objectives. They are as follows. First is to help you find and know Yahweh, our Elohim, as He really is and actually exists. Second is to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity in Yahshua Messiah without distinction of race, nationality, creed, sex, caste, or color. Third is to investigate the unexplained spirit law or so-called law of nature and the powers latent in man. Fourth is to encourage and promote the study of the scriptures, comparative religion, psychology, philosophy, modern, practical, and occult science. 5th is to extirpate current superstition, skepticism, and ignorance. 6th is to learn, know, and understand the operation of Yahweh's eternal purpose through the dispensations and ages. 7th is to discern and avoid being deceived by Lucifer, the serpent, the devil, the dragon, or Satan and his demons operating the mystery of iniquity on earth through the dispensations of time. 8th is to earnestly contend for the common salvation and faith which was once delivered unto the sons and children of Yahweh. 9th, to make known that Yahweh from the beginning ordained there is no other name given among men whereby man can be saved, saving the name of Yahshua Messiah. And 10th is to inherit eternal life now in the kingdom of Yahshua Messiah with the hope of immortal glorification in the newer state. Our watchword is peace and our slogan is speak the truth. We'll have this evening's meeting dedicated with a prayer by Dr. Charles Hall. That will be followed by a scripture reading, 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter. Our scripture readers this evening are Dr. Deb Cometti and Dr. Trissy Bennett. That will be followed by hospitality announcements by Dr. Trissy Bennett. Whichever. You have to walk up.
Thank you. May we all bow our hearts and minds, pay particular attention to where we are and what we are assembled here for. And I would like to add that that shooting that was so viciously activated this week was an indication that there is a very large problem in our society, in the world at large, actually. And we pray to our Creator for His sympathy on those folks. And we know that He knows every one of them, and that they are being proportioned with whatever it is that He knows best for them to do. But finally, there was another tragedy which happened yesterday in Florida, and that was when the alligator snatched a child, 2-year-old child, and took him into the water and created a real panic for our people to rescue him, which was in vain. But it was something that was meant to be, and I certainly would pray that the family is united and at peace with themselves soon. It's a rough world out there. These are only 2 incidences that very recently shows us that. And yeah, we know that you are in charge, and that no matter what happens, we are cognizant that you have every hope for us as we hope for salvation. And let us all say, hallelujah.
Good evening, class. I'll be reading 2 Timothy, the second chapter, and I'll be reading from a King James Bible, inserting the true names where necessary. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Yahshua the Messiah. And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahshua the Messiah. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully. The husbandman that laboreth must be first partaker of the fruits. Consider what I say, and Yahweh give thee understanding in all things. Remember that Yahshua the Messiah of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my gospel, wherein I suffered trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds, but the word of Elohim is not bound. Therefore I endure all things for the elect's sakes, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in Yahshua the Messiah with eternal glory. It is a faithful saying, for if we be dead with him, we shall also live with him. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. If we believe not, yet he abideth faithful, he cannot deny himself. Of these things put them in remembrance, charging them before Yahweh that they strive not about words to no profit, but to the subverting of the hearers. Study to show thyself approved unto Elohim, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But shun profane and vain babblings, for they will increase unto more ungodliness. And their word will eat as doth a canker, of whom is Hymenaeus and Philetus, who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some. Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim standeth sure, having this seal, Yahweh knows them that are his. And let everyone that nameth the name of Yahshua the Messiah depart from iniquity. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace, with them that call on Yahweh out of a pure heart. But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strifes. And the servant of Yahweh must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient, in meekness instructing those that oppose themselves, if Elohim peradventure will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will. That was 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter. I'd like to welcome all of you. I can kind of like stand over here. You're all here. I'd like to welcome all of you tonight. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and to see all of you, and to stand here before this great teaching and to continue to learn more of Yahweh's eternal purpose, pattern, and plan. We have no first-time visitors or returning guests this evening, so thank you.
And our first speaker this evening, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. John Fraser.
Move back further. Oops. Thank you. All right, I was thinking today, and then what Charles mentioned in the prayer kind of got me, kind of went along those same lines, but like, everything you hear in the news is disturbing and gets you down, and a lot of people are really upset, and I mean, rightfully so, because terrible things happen, and it seems like you don't know what's next, But being down here, we're fortunate, to know that everything's a part of Yahweh's purpose, and nothing's going to happen that He doesn't want to happen, Like even with the presidential election coming up, people are like, oh, we're screwed, there's no good candidate, and it's like, nothing's going to happen that Yahweh doesn't want to happen. And if He wants it to happen, there's nothing you can do about it. So you can't really totally just, go crazy stressing out over things. You look all throughout the law and the prophets, there's people that were in tough situations. You look at like Moses down here. It's just seemed like, at times I'm sure there was no hope, but he just, kept doing what he thought was right, what Yahweh put in him, and what Yahweh instructed him to do. He just kept on doing it, and and eventually they got out of Egypt. So I guess that's about kind of where what I was thinking about. You just kind of keep on doing what you think is right, what Yahweh's put in you, and if things don't go how you think they should go, just keep having faith in Yahweh, and everything's part of His purpose.
And our next speaker will be Dr. Lloyd Bennett.
Good evening, class. Very happy to be here. I enjoyed John, and I enjoyed the prayer too. Very glad to be here. And these things that go on, after a while you just kind of watch them go on. The stuff, it's Satan's kingdom. There's just no way around it, but John hit it on the money. As long as you understand it's Satan's kingdom and that Yahshua ultimately has everything under control, that's where you start to see comfort. You don't have to be all, but I still wouldn't let my kid next to a body of water in Florida. We've been to alligator farms. It's like, at any rate, so you have faith in Yahshua, He's going to take care of these things. Let me have 1 Samuel 15. I like Samuel. Yeah, John likes working with Samuel. It's like you read Samuel, I tell you, there's a lot of stuff you read in the book and you're always looking for this and that, and you keep your eyes open, and you read stuff, and then hopefully Yahshua reveals things to you, But I tell you, reading Samuel is like reading a novel. You know what I mean? Like you just pick up one of those, a book that, takes you away somewhere, and it's like Samuel just, it's, if you don't get a chance to read much, and you want to read something that, start off in 3. Please.
Samuel 15 and 3. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass.
All right, that's good. Now, Samuel, he's a prophet, and Yahweh speaks to him and tells him the things that He wants done. He goes to Saul and tells him, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to the Amalekites, and I want you to destroy everything. Okay? Everything, he just says destroy what, Deb?
The women and children.
The women and children. Oh, the women and children? Yeah, the women and children. Right? It's like the women and children and...
And babies.
Man, ox, sheep, camel, and ass.
Yep, the suckling, the ox, the sheep, the camel, ass, everything he wants killed, right? Now this, it's easy for me to look at this and say, well, this is simple. Just kill everything, you know? But as you read on, now, there's a whole history with Saul anyways. Samuel was kind of running the show for Yahweh. And I think it was his two sons, I can't remember their names, but his two sons weren't quite keeping things up to snuff as they should. And so the people wanted a king. So they ended up, and Yahweh warns them, he tells them, you're going to want a king, he's going to want to do this, he's going to want to take your men or your sons and turn them into soldiers, he's going to want your vineyards, he's going to want this and that, but the people wanted a king. They didn't have faith in Yahweh, you know? So start back up in 7. I'm only picking stuff up out of this, but I always, you encourage, we all do, if you haven't read this, to read the whole thing to make sure I'm just not picking stuff up here and there, right? But, because I don't want to be up here a real long time, I'm just going to pick and choose stuff out of this because this is like one of my favorite things that happened that you can read about in the Bible, this thing with Saul. Okay, pick it back up in 7.
Verse 7, and Saul smote the Amalekites.
So he smoked the Amalekites, okay.
From Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt.
Okay.
And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites.
All right, so he took the king alive, all right.
And utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword.
Oh, okay, so he killed all the people. That's what he was supposed to do. They have a history of the Amalekites, okay? Anyways, all right, keep going.
But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, of the oxen, of the fatlings, of the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly.
Okay,
then
keep going.
came the word of Yahweh unto Samuel, saying, It repents me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandments.
He's not performed what?
My commandments.
He's not performed his commandments. Okay, keep going.
And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto Yahweh all night.
All right, so go down to 14. This is like my favorite. This is like my favorite of scripture here. Go ahead, 14.
And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in my ears?
I hear bleating of sheep. You know, isn't it the greatest? That one just like, I don't know, maybe he had to, but start again and it's like, I hear, go ahead, start back up in 14.
And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep?
It's like, what is this he hears? Go ahead.
And the lowing of the oxen, which I hear.
Yeah, the mooing or whatever.
And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen.
Oh, so he had a plan. He says, but we spare the best. Okay, keep going.
To sacrifice unto Yahweh the elders.
Oh, to sacrifice unto Yahweh, who told them to go do this. Okay, keep going.
The rest we have utterly destroyed.
They destroyed everything else. And read 16.
Then Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what Yahweh has said to me this night. And he said unto him, Say on.
All right, now we'll just get 22.
22. And Samuel said, Hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices?
See, he saved these animals for, he said over here, didn't he just say to offer unto Yahweh?
Yeah.
He just said that, where was that? He just said, well, I saved these so that we could...
He said it in 15.
In 15. Save the best to sacrifice unto Yahweh. Okay, start 22 again then.
And Samuel said, Hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices?
Does he have great delight in burnt offerings? Okay.
And sacrifices as in obeying the voice of
As
Yahweh?
obeying the voice of Yahweh. Yahweh said to destroy everything.
Right.
Right? Okay, keep going.
Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams.
All right, now, Yahweh gave Saul a commandment. Commandment's like a law, you know what I mean? And we've had, well, right down even through the book here, because this law thing, and what got me thinking about it was Brooke was on the floor about a month ago, and she was talking about the law. And then you know how you lay in bed, try to sleep, and you think about stuff? I mean, in the examples we always use, Adam here, of course he only had one law, right? One law. And of course he broke that. We know all this is Yahweh's purpose, but I'm just trying to, you know, show how these things work. We know that they had 613 laws and commandments, and they had the Big Ten, they call it. And even the Big Ten now, I've mentioned this before, working in one of the churches in Skaneateles, down in the basement, we're fixing the ceilings, and they had the 10 Commandments. And I look at that and I go, they changed the 10 Commandments. I mean, remember now, is 10 Commandments is the thing that they, the Big Ten, all the churches, the Big Ten, they changed the 10 Commandments. It's like, really? But guess which one? Everybody already knows. So as soon as I say it, you'll go, oh yeah. Anybody? Yes. I knew. It's like the graven, it has to be because all the churches are filled with them. Now, the so-called law that they all go by, they changed it. It's like, really? It amazes me. So, even this commandment, that was a law. Yahweh spoke, this is what he wants, right? But he broke that law, that commandment. It just, and you see it right down through. So anyways, I'm thinking about what Brooke was saying, and of course she looked right at me when I was sitting back there. It's like, oh, why are you looking at me like that? It's like, you know how that happens? It's like, oh. So anyways, I'm thinking about it, and it's like, this law thing, as I'm sitting in bed, it's like, wait a minute. So I'm driving into class, and I'm going like 70, 72 or something, and everybody on the road is going between 70, 75, 68, you know, but nobody is doing 65. But the law, the physical law, and these were physical laws, says 65. But everybody on the road is doing 75. So I'm starting to think, it's like, look at all the laws. We have criminal law, business law. These are all laws. It's like we're so embedded in laws. So let's think. I thought this might be fun here because I think of the different kind of laws there is. Besides lawyers, which lawyers are supposed to, you know, understand the law and help people with it and all that, you know. But lawyers, of course, then there's still business lawyers. There's criminal lawyers. There's the prosecution lawyers. There's the kind that help you sell real estate lawyers, right? Those are just some of the lawyers. All the dang lawyers, everybody wants to be a lawyer. TV, packed with lawyers, right? That to me was the worst thing when they started letting, my 2 cents, I'm going off here. They start letting lawyers and drug companies advertise on TV. Really? It's like, oh, I can't stand it. If it wasn't for the lawyers and the drug companies and the car commercials, the TV stations would probably go out of business. Because it's like so many of them, right? So, all these different lawyers. Then the laws. So back to the laws. There's, I think, what is the laws called? Like where parking tickets, and that's a whole separate kind of laws.
Ordinances?
Yeah.
Vehicle traffic.
Yeah, that's a section of laws, right, Scotty? Yep. So then, of course, there's different degrees of stuff, how you break the law and how bad it is that when you're doing those kind of things. You know what I mean? And then, of course, there's the things that are real bad, and then, of course, they're going to want to lock you up forever and do this and that. But there's just, I started thinking, and, of course, when you're laying in bed thinking about this, to me, it's always much easier to think of all the different things there is as examples. Do you follow that? That all the different kind of laws there is. It just amazes me. And it's the nature of this creation. Just like that Yahweh let Satan loose, and there's, as you see things I see things getting worse, and it just, there's more and more laws, but does it change anything? Does it? I don't see anything changing. It just keeps getting worse, and there's still more and more laws. Now let me have Exodus 15:26. This is another one of my favorite quotes. And before you get that, read 22 again, because just get us all on the same page here. 22 of the scripture, or Samuel here. 15, 20.
15 and 22 of 1 Samuel.
Yeah.
And Samuel said, hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices?
Now see, burnt offerings and sacrifice, well, a lot of these, some of these were voluntary, but there was sacrifices for all kinds of stuff, but a lot of them were offered up here because somebody broke this law. And it's like you offer something up that died in your stead, right? So, but does Yahweh like this stuff? Keep reading, please.
Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams.
To obey is better than sacrifice. Let me have, what did I just say? 15, I think it's 15:26.
15 and 26.
I might have a, yes.
How about if I pick it up in 25, Lloyd? It starts
Okay.
out with and said. 25, 15 and 25.
Thank
And he cried unto Yahweh, and Yahweh showed
Who is this? This is Exodus, right?
Yes, this is Moses.
Okay. And start again. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Moses, and he cried unto Yahweh, and Yahweh showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. And said, this is 26, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken.
Now, listen. This is like one of my favorites. If you will just listen, okay?
Yeah, if you will diligently hearken.
Diligently listen.
To the voice of Yahweh the Elohim.
Okay?
And will do that which is right.
And do that which is right. Oh, this is
in his sight.
In his sight, okay?
And will give ear to his commandments.
Listen to his commandments. Listen to his laws. Go ahead.
Keep all his statutes.
Keep his statutes.
I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians.
All the stuff that he did to the Egyptians.
For I am Yahweh.
He would not put these things upon you if you what?
If you hearken to, if you keep his commandments.
If you hearken, if you listen to Yahweh and keep his commandments.
Right.
Well, right along, it's just so easier said than done, right? And then that same night, I'm pretty sure, of course, someone pulled Psalms 19 and 7. I have these certain ones that I really like, but it's like
Psalms 19 and 7. The law of Yahweh is perfect.
Now wait a minute. The law of Yahweh is perfect. Now, we just went over all these laws, and we talk about this all the time, and this is what makes this so unique. You know what I mean? Like Charles is saying, there's a place you can go and understand that there's all these laws, and then there's what?
The law of Yahweh is perfect.
In Yahweh's law is perfect. And why is it perfect?
Converting the soul.
Because it can convert your soul. Right. It's the only dang way you're ever going to get through it. Is he can convert your soul. Then it's no longer you're going to do this is going to happen if that happens, or I think that we should save the animals that are the best. I mean, you know what I mean? But the people, and it's always a buck passing too. If you read in here, you'll see where he says, Samuel goes, But the people, I don't think we had it read, but he says, but the people wanted these. He said, I mean, it says it in there, the people. Oh, but she had me, how does he say it? She had me,
She gave me the fruit.
she gave me the fruit. It's like, you know, and then we got to pass the buck, right? I mean, it's just over and over and over. So it's like, it's such a joy to come somewhere and have it make sense. Yeah. And I still wouldn't let my kid near the water in Florida. You should see this alligator farm Trissy and I went to. We traveled a long ways to get to this. It was acres. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of them, of alligators. And it was like people were mobbed to see this, and they had all this stuff where, and guys would go back on this thing, you know, and they were feeding them chickens and stuff. I never, if we get a chance to go back to Florida, I tell you, you got to see these alligators, give you a whole new, whew. But Florida anyways, I don't want to get on with that, but Yahweh has blessed us that we can see these things, and it's just a pure joy. It's like Charles was saying. It's just, I'm so tickled to be able to understand these things. And whether I drove 70 or 75, yeah, I was going 5 or 7 miles over the speed limit. But I understand that that's the physical law. Yep, everybody's doing the same thing. But I know what Yahweh's law is. You know what I mean? His spiritual. I understand that this physical creation is not going to last, and there's more to it. There's the spiritual part of this creation, and our souls are being nourished every time we come here. Right. Yeah, it's something else, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Oh, I really like that. It's like, well, I really appreciate having anything to say about Yahweh, and that He has given me something to say. There's nothing else. Everything else seems to kind of fit into sense, kind of starts making sense. And the things that don't, it's like was it John? Because Yahweh's got it under control. It's His creation. And the more real Yahweh ends up becoming to you, the more real He is, and the more real He is in you, the more real He is, the more it's like, yeah. Then you don't think about all this other stuff. You just kind of cruise along. And it's not like you decide to do things or act a different way. You just don't have any choice. That's it. It's like the divine invitation to actually come and sit down here. You know what I mean? It's a divine invitation. And you can argue, fight about it all you want, or whoever's listening to this, or no. If you're meant to be here, you're going to be here. Yeah, because the thing is with this, and it's so hard to grasp your head around it sometimes, that this is Yahweh's creation, Yahweh Elohim, and the idea that He is all in all, and that it's, I mean, see, there's just no words that I could ever come up with to try to explain the all in all that He is, that having things like, it made me wonder, oh, He knows the hairs on your, what is that quote where it says?
He knows the number of hairs in your head?
Yeah, it's like, really? But see, the thing is, as long as you're thinking physical about it, where there's somehow something that's being kept track of or added up or something like that, then it's always over here. It's always that physical thing. But when you realize that Yahweh, it's all Yahweh, and then if you could even fathom that things start to change. You start realizing that, it's not that. It's like the snake. It was just a perfect example. I read that in one of Doc's transcripts where he's trying to explain And I'm sure he was doing everything but with me understanding it, but the snake that, for example, that Moses, the two proofs that Yahweh Elohim gave to Moses was a snake and then the leprosy. So the snake, it's like, well, you always think, well, we don't anymore, but it's like you think, well, Yahweh's going to protect him from that snake. You know what I mean? Or enable him to, he's going to make the snake straight or something and turn it back into whatever, you know. It's like, no. He doesn't have to do that. It's all, everything is him. That's when you start thinking the totality, I hope that's a great word, totality of everything that Yahweh, or even try to begin to grasp it, then you start to see that, oh, there's, wait a minute, the water, separating the water, all that stuff, it's like, no, it's all Yahweh. And then it starts to make sense how these things happen. You don't question them, or you don't try to figure them out. How did the water get separated? You know what I mean? How do you make this snake stiff so he could pick it up? How did he do that? No, the water was low that time of year, so he was able to, there was a dry spot because there was probably, you know, water goes around the corner, and then stuff builds up. John would know what it was. The stuff in the water builds up. Oh, so there's a place we can walk through. No, it's all Yahweh, and that's what makes it a joy. I mean, one of the things, you know, that we can see that, or even begin to see it, or even see parts of it, because it's vast. I hope I didn't. All praise and glory and honor go unto our Father Yahweh. Thank you.
Our next speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Trissy Bennett.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with all of you tonight, as I said when I did hospitality. And I have enjoyed what the previous speakers had to say. I thoroughly enjoyed Charles's prayer. And you know what John and Lloyd said is really true. We know that we're in the end times and that Yahweh controls everything. This is Yahweh's creation. So the things that we see happening, even though they're awful and horrific, and for the rest of the world, I know that it's a hard thing to hear. It's a hard saying, okay? But can I have wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times? I can't remember where it is, Tab. I don't know why. I lost it. I looked in Isaiah and I was like, where is it?
Isaiah 33 and 6.
Okay.
Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure.
Okay. So that's the prophet Isaiah, and you know, he's saying that wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. And that was back in the prophets. So we know that the end is declared from the beginning. So in the beginning, the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh was their strength of salvation. In the end, the same will be for us. I wanted to get in, I had another thing on my mind, but I guess I'm going this way. It made me think of Satan being cast into the earth plane. So I need that in Revelation, just as a witness. What is it, 12 and...
Revelation 12.
And this is just as a witness to what Lloyd had said, you know, that this is Satan's domain.
Revelation 12:7.
Revelation 12:7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven.
So there was no place found anymore in heaven.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world.
Right, so Satan, who deceives the whole world, was cast into the earth plane. So you know how you'll have people, don't lose that, Scott, we'll go back there, but you know how people will say to you, when they hear of tragedies like this happening, people say, how can God let that happen? How did God let that happen? And you'll hear it all in the workplace. I don't work anymore, thank goodness, but people, and you'll see them, they're nervous, people don't understand what's happening. For us, we're fortunate to be able to come to a place to have an understanding of why these things are happening. Because Satan was cast out of heaven, there was a war in heaven, Satan was cast into the earth plane. This is not God's kingdom, friends. This is Satan's kingdom. We happen to be living in here. We walk around in here, but we're not of this world. You know, this is Satan's world. And these terrible tragedies that you see happening are going to happen. We're in the end times, and it's going to be the way that it is. In the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh, you know, these attributes that we always talk about, that's what's going to get you through. And Lloyd had talked about us being chosen, how Yahweh knows all the hairs on our head, and you know, he knows the number of hairs on your head and everything. If you can get Ephesians and pick it up at 1 and 4 and read down through, I don't know, 10, maybe 11.
1 and 4.
Yep.
According as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world.
Okay, so this is the prophet Paul, and he's saying, according as he has chosen us, in him, in who, Deb?
In Yahshua.
Yep.
Before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him, in love, having predestinated us unto the adoption of sons by Yahshua the Messiah to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Right.
So this is Yahweh's will. Yahweh's will that we were chosen. And as Lloyd said, it's very hard to wrap your mind around that. There are people in this school who to this day cannot wrap their mind around it. But I'm not going to fight the book. That is what your book says, that you have been chosen before the foundations of this world, predestined in love with Yahshua, and to do the good pleasure of his will. There is no argument, not where I'm concerned anyway. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
To the praise of the glory of his grace, through which he made us accepted.
He made us. He made us. He made us accepted. Think of those words for a few minutes. You didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Yahweh made you. He made you to be accepted in him. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
In whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins according to the riches of his grace.
Through grace.
In which he hath abounded toward us in all wisdom and prudence, having made known unto us the mystery of his will.
And it is a mystery. Okay.
According to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times he might gather together in one all things in the Messiah, both which are in heaven and which are on earth, even in him.
Okay. Sorry, Deb, let me stop you for a minute. As Deb was reading that, I had to think, you know how they talk about that Trinitarian concept, the Catholics do? And right here it says that all things are gathered together in one, in Yahshua the Messiah, both which are in heaven and which are on earth. Everything is a unity and all gathered together in him. Go ahead, Deb.
In whom also we have obtained an inheritance.
And don't we all look forward to that inheritance?
Being predestinated according to the purpose of him who works all things after the counsel of his own will.
Okay.
That we should be to the praise of his glory, who first trusted in the Messiah, in whom you also trusted after you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after you believed, you were sealed with that Holy Spirit of promise.
And that's so very important, that you were sealed with the Holy Spirit. Yep. I just, you know, I was just thinking as Lloyd was up here, you know, how we're so very fortunate, and the terrible things that have happened this week, it's not just this week, guys, it's every week. Every time you turn around, you hear about some kind of tragedy or something going on. And I mean, my heart breaks for those people. I don't want to stand up here and make it sound like we don't care about what happens to anybody else. It's just that I have an understanding, and I only have an understanding because Yahweh has allowed me to come through that door, that he sat me down and allowed me to hear anything, that these things are going to happen. They're going to continue to happen until the end, you know, and that, you know, it's the way it is, that this is Satan's kingdom, and that Satan and all his angels, you know, it's funny, when I first came in this class, I didn't think of Satan as an angel. I thought he was that snake, you know. I didn't understand, I had no understanding of anything at all. But Satan, it's like this is his kingdom, and he's a good devil. Yahweh made Satan. Yahweh created everything. So he made Satan to be a worthy adversary, and he does a good job. And he's going to continue to do a good job until the end, you know. That was not what was on my mind tonight. But I felt that I needed to get up here and say a couple things because of Charles's prayer, which was wonderful, Charles, thank you, and what John and Lloyd said. But actually, what I wanted to talk to you about was spiritual starvation. And that was what was on my heart and mind. It has been for a couple of weeks. And it was actually since Kaylee was here. And oh my goodness, I'm doing a name blank here. Diane. When Diane and Kaylee were here. And, you know, it's always wonderful to have visitors. We are blessed. This class is blessed. We've had a lot of visitors lately, but they were the first of many that have come here. And Kaylee was up here, and she had told us, you know, she was talking to us about physical starvation, you know, how she had been through some rough times, and so she was talking about that from a physical standpoint. But I've learned from being in this class that everything that we see and hear physically, you need to flip it around to a spiritual, because that's really what's important. Yes, to starve physically is a terrible thing to do, but to starve spiritually is also that's a much worse thing to do. And this world, Satan's kingdom, is filled with spiritual starvation. So anyway, I want you to look up the word starvation, and we'll just get a brief definition on that. And I want you to look up famine too.
So starvation is taking you to starve.
Yeah.
The etymology, to die.
Okay.
To perish with hunger.
Yeah.
Also to suffer extreme hunger.
Okay.
To perish or suffer with cold.
Okay.
Hence, to suffer from any want, to be in need.
Okay. So I'm just going to write up here, and I'm not a good blackboard writer, to suffer from extreme hunger. Kind of like we were when we first came into this class, correct? Because you didn't have any knowledge of Yahweh. I didn't have any knowledge of Yahweh. And we were starving to death. We were dying. We always say that when we came into these doors, when we walked through these doors, we were DOA. We were dead on arrival because we knew nothing of our Creator. And to me, that's starvation, okay? So to suffer from extreme hunger, to me, it's a spiritual hunger, okay? All right, look up famine for me, Deb, will you?
Yep, famine, the etymology is hunger.
Okay.
General scarcity of food.
Yep.
Destitution.
Okay.
Hunger. Starvation. Extreme scarcity of something.
Okay. So extreme scarcity, starvation. Okay. Scarcity. Okay. Starvation. Okay. So, like I said, when we first came into this class, this was us. Okay? There was a great famine in the land. Okay? There was a great famine in the land, a lot of places through the Bible. But I wanted to pick up 1 Samuel 3:1. So when Kelly was here, that's what it made me think of. She was talking about physical starvation. I was thinking about spiritual starvation. And now that we're down at the end of the age, things were that way in the beginning, they're going to be that way at the end. Because as I said earlier, the end is declared from the beginning. So 1 Sam 3:1.
Okay, 1 Sam 3:1. And the child Samuel ministered unto Yahweh before Eli. And the word of Yahweh was precious in those days. There was no open vision.
Okay, so I looked at that as the word of Yahweh being scarce. That there was starvation in those days, that there was not a hearing of the word of Yahweh. Okay, so now pick up Amos 8:11. Amos 8:11 comes right out and says it.
Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of the hearing of the words of Yahweh.
Okay, so a famine of not hearing the words of Yahweh. Imagine how terrible it would be. I mean, we're here now, and we understand what a precious gift this is, and that we're here by grace. But if all of a sudden you couldn't hear the words of Yahweh anymore, they had been taken away from you, or your ears had been sealed up. I mean, this is such a precious gift. So when Amos is saying that, read that again, Deb.
Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of the hearing of the words of Yahweh.
So, spiritual starvation, not hearing the words of Yahweh. And then I picked up Matthew 13:11 through 15. This is Yahshua, and he's speaking to the multitudes, and it's Yahshua speaking in parables.
Matthew 13:11. I'll pick it up in 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given.
Right.
For whosoever hath to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, in hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
Right. So they don't see and they don't hear. So there's spiritual starvation. Because the world doesn't see and it doesn't hear, they're starving to death. They are starving to death spiritually. And I don't watch a lot of TV, so I don't watch a lot of Sunday mornings, but I know Deb has gotten up here and she's talked about what do you call them, Deb? I want to call them soothsayers, but that's not what they are. The guys who get up on Sunday morning and preach.
Televangelists.
Yes, televangelists, thank you. They get up there and it's like they have all these smooth words and they tell the people what the people want to hear. Lloyd talked about, what the people wanted in Samuel. This is what the people wanted, that we keep the best of the oxen and the best of everything, and we sacrifice. That is not what Yahweh said. That's not what Yahweh says. And what these people are given on Sunday morning is not what saith Yahweh. It just isn't. We know what Yahweh says, and we know what the will of the Father is. And, we look at these tragedies that happen. Orlando, the little boys in Letchworth State Park that Deb told me about that drowned, the child in Florida who's taken in by the alligators. Those are all terrible ways to die. But there's other ways to die, my friends. And that's what I looked at when I thought about this, was the spiritual starvation. The people are starving to death for not hearing the word of Yahweh. And they're going to lose their soul. These people, these children, they lost their physical lives. The people in Orlando lost their physical lives. But that's just one example of death. There is another death, and that's the death of you losing your soul. And, we talk about an inner man. We know that inside of all of us, we all look the same, that the inner man is, that there's a soul inside of us, and that the soul is going to go on. But we're all going to die a physical death. None of this is going to go with us. Your bodies rot, go into the ground, disappear. It's your soul that goes on. And that's what you should want. And when Kelly was up here, I hope that everything works out for her. And I felt very blessed that she would share that with us, because things that we get up here and we talk about from the floor that have happened to us, or we've seen, or you go through, those are things that come from inside of you, from your heart. That's Yahweh in you. That's Yahshua that you share with your brethren. And it's never to be made light of, anything that any of us go through, but that we should continue to learn, because we're going to continue to learn for ages and dispensations yet to come. That's been told to us. That's a promise. That's going to happen. And so, we need to learn from one another. There's things that all of us go through in our lives, and there's things that all of us see, and we need to be able to look at those spiritually. The physical things that happen are awful, but it's much more important that you are saved through Yahshua, your spiritual salvation, And I really don't have a lot more to say than that. I didn't even touch on 2 Timothy, and I apologize for that. Sometimes for me, if I have something on my mind, I can't get it off my mind till I get up here and get it out. And then, in each of us, I wanted to tell you that as we get on the floor, you'll notice that each one of you will be stimulated by the previous speaker, because that's how this class works. It's how Yahshua works in you. One of your brethren will say something and it'll make you think of something and it'll stimulate you. You know, when Ricky was on the floor, he talked about that desire in us that Yahweh has put in you to know him, to love him. It's beautiful. It really is, that you continue to learn more of your Creator and want to know more of him. So I think that's all I have to say. I don't want to stand up here and waste time or ramble. So I thank you all for the time, and all praises, and go to our Savior Yahshua the Messiah. I thank you.
And our next speaker will be Dr. Scott Miller.
Now you listen, and then like, all then you listen better. Oh, alrighty. Then I had a pee so bad I was gonna go to the bathroom right after that. So, remember you're on camera? Yeah, I'm a mess. Right? No one's watching you. That's what I'm like. No one's really watching anyway, right? Well,
Okay.
Let's go to the scripture, I guess.
2 Timothy 2:1. Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Yahshua the Messiah. And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahshua the Messiah.
Right. Endure hardness or hardship. My margin picks up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as John said, that, you know, we're going to go through difficult things. Moses went through a lot of difficulty, the children of Israel down in Egypt, and we're liberated out. You know, but with Yahshua, you know, and we look at these things in the world, and they can be troubling. But we know that, you know, as the closer we get towards the end, that it's just going to get worse. Right. It really is, and it's been manifested. Previously, the worst mass shooting was Virginia Tech. Right. And then not much long after, you know, Orlando. And you can't even remember all the shootings in between. You can try, but I bet you'd miss one. That's how it's become, you know, commonplace in a sense, but yeah, as it gets worse, it's going to seem more tragic. And like Lloydie said, we keep putting more and more laws on it, but, you know, that's Yahweh's purpose. You can only put so many laws on things that the ministry of iniquity is going to do what he has to do, you know. And that's, before this thing goes out, he's going to be unrestrained. And the closer it gets, the worse it's going to be. So keep reading.
No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully.
Right, we're crowned because we are, you know, we're the bride, right. You know, and we're getting a crown of beauty and glory. You know, we're being adorned as a bride. And see, that's how we're sanctified and set apart. And you have the mystery of iniquity that was brought out, how he was cast down to the earth plane. And see, he can't, you know, he can try to mess with us, but see, I wanted to get in the 24th chapter of Matthew where it talked about the end. See, He's going to mess with the world, and he'll mess with us too, but he can't, you know, we're not going to be able to be deceived. We may go through things, but what's important is spiritually, you know, and that's what keeps us grounded, that our inner man is strengthened because, you know, we are protected from our husband. He is our protector, and we have been given a crown of beauty and glory as the bride. And like I said, even though we go through all these difficult things and the world is going, so we can see right through that. What do we have?
24 and 1.
Or 7.
No, let me see. Start in 5.
Matthew 24 and 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall deceive many.
Right. Now we know that really that the truth is that not many people right now are coming in the name of Yahshua. Back then they did. And today really there are people using the name in the Institute. They're not even using the name Yahshua. You're trying to deceive using the name Dr. Kinley. Really, because if you're buying that lie, then you might as well just go back and use Jesus and go back to church. Really, because Dr. Kinley and Jesus, you know, you're going to get about the same salvation out of either one of those names. So, you know, keep reading.
You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled.
Right, be not troubled, you know, because these things are going to happen, you know. But, you know, we know that we're in a war, and our war is spiritual, and, you know, we don't have to get the scripture that our weapons of warfare are not carnal, you know, because the world's are, but ours are spiritual.
Right.
And just as David, you know, we were reading in Samuel where it said, don't, you know, I was reading in there and it talked about not judging on the countenance, and maybe we can get that too, on the appearance, but on the inner in Samuel. Keep reading in Matthew.
See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in various places.
Right.
All these are the beginning of sorrow.
These are just the beginning of sorrows, because we've had earthquakes all over. I mean, think of I'd heard of the word tsunami, but I never really had, you know, and the tsunami is caused by an earthquake in the ocean. We've had two huge, one took out Japan, and another one took out, I think, Indonesia, where, I mean, hundreds of thousands of people died. And that's a catastrophic, you know, physical event that happened on the earth plane. It's hard to wrap your mind. Hundreds of thousands of people died in that, in multiple countries. You know, but these things have been manifested, so be not troubled by them, because it's just a sign that, you know, because it could be troubling, because the way the world's going to get, it could definitely be, it is troubling and scary, you know, but we have to realize that these things have to take place and manifest for, you know, for the purpose to happen. And we know, you know, we have comfort in that Yahshua has us protected, and you know, and that we know that our warfare isn't even physical. You know, we're just stepping back on the sidelines, sort of watching it all unfold. You know, and we have our own warfare in class with doctrines and stuff, and like Trissy was saying with the predestination and stuff, which is part of this. You know, that you're set apart. You know. I wanted to work that in. She talked about that in Ephesians, how you're sanctified and set apart, and how we're predestinated for this. Which I can't run that in this amount of time, but I could try a little bit. Go ahead.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
Right. Now, class has gotten down small because, you know, there's people we're offending, you know, by speaking the truth. It's more people, really, I'm going to gather that started in this teaching we're offended in the world, you know, but you know, we're here to preach the gospel and to speak the truth. Go ahead.
That's right.
Many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall grow cold.
Right. Because, I mean, it's a cold world out there. You know, there's not much love and peace. And, you know, you see it after the tragedies. That's one sort of positive you can put on, that people do come together after tragedies. But overall, the love of many have waxed cold. You know, look how many people have left the truth. You know, it's because things have waxed cold in their hearts. Go ahead.
But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations.
Right.
Then shall the end come.
Why don't you drop down to 36? Let's just cut this up.
36. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
And it's talking like, so it's, you know, let's talk about the end when Yahshua is ready to wrap things up, you know. But before that, see, in the days of Noah, were the minds of men evil continually. Yes. Didn't he say that? You know, and doesn't that remind you of what's going on now? Oh, yeah. How, you know, there's just always something going on, someone always, with all our technology and everything. There's still so much fraud and so many people trying to get away with stuff, you know, even though we try to stop it, but just the minds of men evil continually. Go ahead.
For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until that day Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also be the coming of the Son of Man. Then shall two be in the field, the one taken and the other left.
Right. Actually, I wanted to go back, and that's true. It's talking about, boom, at the end, like in a moment, and a twinkling of an eye, it's going to go out. There'll be like one standing there, and the other one just taken away. But I wanted you to read from 21 down to 24 back in Matthew, because I wanted to get.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
Right, now that's what I wanted. I missed that part. It's going to get bad. Not even since the beginning of the world. Dr. Kinley said that in a transcript when he was alive, that it was happening, that it was like that. Don't ask me to find that, but that it was getting that bad. I want to say he, as a quote, that he said we're living this chapter, and he said that while he was in the flesh. That you know we were living this in his. Go ahead, keep reading.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved.
Right now, except the days be shortened, you know. No flesh, and that's totally what it reminds. As these shootings keep going on, mass killings in number. I mean, we had our 9/11. France had their mass shootings, like 3 in a year. Yeah. You know, Charlie Hebdo, and then there was like a bookstore. I think there was a Jewish deli maybe, and then they had the Bataclan was the name of there was like I said, there's more than you can even fit your mind around. But read that again, Deb.
And except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved.
Right, there should be no flesh. See, Yahweh's going to take it out before, because if he let it go on, there really wouldn't be any flesh saved. It would just keep going. Because remember, what's one of the major attributes of the mystery of iniquity? John 8:44. Why don't we get that? John 8:44. He was a murderer. You know, that's just his nature, and that's what people are going to do. There was more behind that too. There were some repressed issues, I'll say, that's coming out. That his wife had said, you know, I'm talking about the Orlando shooter, and why he targeted a gay nightclub. You know, there might have been some other issues going on, not just radical Islam, you know, or terrorism. He had some repressed issues, it's my understanding, that's coming out based on various dating sites he was on that, you know, and...
One of the people who worked there saw him there
So I'm right, and they don't think he was casing the club either.
No.
You know, he was there as a customer.
He was looking for some touch.
Little quote top. All right, what do we have?
John 8:44. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do.
Right.
He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it.
Right, he's a liar and a father of it and a murderer. And see, that's what the mystery of iniquity is going to do. He's going to lie, he's going to deceive, and he's going to murder. You know, those things are obvious too, some of them, you know, and really we've come to learn of the deception of the, you know, as simple as like what Lloyd said, changing the 10 Commandments. So, what a lie. I mean, we followed the 10 Commandments except the graven images one. And I forgot that, I completely forgot about that until Lloydie said that. That's amazing. We're just going to flagrantly change a commandment so we don't look like complete flagrant hypocrites. We're just going to let's just strike that. No, we don't need to hear that. No one needs to see that one. You know. And this stuff flies, and we were none the wiser. I was putting my money in the basket every week. You know, I didn't know any different. But, all right, Deb, finish in 24.
Okay, verse 23. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is the Messiah, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false messiahs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect.
And if it were possible, see, which it's not possible, but if it were, they'd deceive even the very elect. That things would get so slick, you know, and people in our case, aren't people getting tripped up by things that, like predestination, I thought was something that was like an like institution of fulfillment, or the name Yahshua. It was just that clear and simple, but, you know, understanding that how Yahweh has the kind of power that he has the power and control, that he knows how many hairs are on everyone's heads. That kind of, see, we can't conceive of that, you know, but he brings us into that awareness, you know, by witness after witness and seeing the truth. Then you start realizing how he does have all this under control, and you have comfort in that. And that he does know that kind of information. He does have that kind of power. And then you realize, then you know the kind of creator you're dealing with, one that is powerful and strong, not weak and up in the sky, you know, and that can do the things that he says he's going to do. All right, let's back to the scripture just quick. In verse 4.
Second Timothy 2:4. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life.
Right, because you're supposed to be warned after, you know, not the things of this world, but after the truth. You know, if we're going to war after something, right? It's to earnestly contend for the common salvation of this gospel.
Right.
That's where our war is. Go ahead.
That he may please him who has chosen him to be a soldier.
Right, see, we've been chosen to be a soldier, you know, in this war. Read.
And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully. The husbandman that laboreth must be first partaker of the fruits.
Right. See, if we're going to go out and preach the gospel, then, you know, Yahshua was the first fruits, but we have to be a partaker of those fruits, or else, you know, we're doing our own thing.
Right.
You know, we want to do what Yahweh wants to do, not our own thing, like in Samuel, where, well, it seemed like a good idea to take we'll just keep the good ones, right? You know, these are fine, you know. It seems such a bad, you know, I could see myself. Well, there's nothing wrong with this one. He's shamed just to kill him. He's perfectly fine. There's not a spot or blemish on him, you know. See, but that was man's idea. That's not, you know. Yahweh said kill everything. You know, everything means everything. You know, but man gets his ideas in there and wants to, well, a couple would be fine. We could eat them late. We could sacrifice them to you, Yahweh. I like to change that. Well, I was going to do it for you, boss. My intentions were good. Go ahead.
Consider what I say, and Yahweh give thee understanding in all things. Remember that Yahshua the Messiah of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my gospel, wherein I suffer trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds, but the word of Elohim is not bound. Therefore I endure all things for the elect's sakes, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in Yahshua the Messiah.
There's that word, the elect's sake. See, it's in there all these little, these are the little ones. Where Trissy got Ephesians, where it talked about predestination, and it was more blatant about, it's bold, like it just comes right out. There's scriptures that come right out and say it, but this one that Paul's saying, I endure all things for the elect's sake, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in Yahshua with eternal glory. See, there's that elect's sake. I wanted to work with that. We got a few minutes. I'll wrap it up.
No, Scott. What do you want?
Why don't we work with John? We'll have to cut this up. Start it in 8.
John 8 and 1.
17 and 8, I'm sorry. So I'm going to pick up the elect and predestination a little bit. John. We could work in Romans, we can work, but time is short.
John 17 and 8. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came out from thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them whom thou hast given me.
Right. Now, this is Yahshua speaking. He says, I pray for them. He doesn't pray for the world, because we're under the impression that really anyone could be saved in the world. That's how the world thinks, that if and that's why, because they have you praying to statues. So if the graven image thing is in there, then you can't pray to the statue, which is see, the whole thing is messed up. Then the statues of Mary, the priest, the intercession, it's all messed up. See, but Yahshua says he prays for that. See, there's an amount that, and it says it earlier in the chapter of John, that he can only pray for those that the Father has given him. Read.
I pray for them. I pray not for the world, but for them whom thou hast given me, for they are thine.
Right.
And all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee. Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be one as we are. Right,
and that's the one, because that's the thing that, in Ephesians, he's talked about gathering together in one, all things, in heaven and earth. And we talked about the end in Matthew, how he's going to bring everything together. See, that's what it's coming down to. That's all that's going to be left of the true sons. And we see that that's getting a tighter and tighter group. Mm-hmm. And things are going to get worse and worse. And then before he gathers together in one, all things, in heaven, of the sons that were predestinated, and he's talking about the same things here, that we are one. Who's we? That the bride and Yahshua will be one. Read.
While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me, I have kept.
Right, those that thou gavest me. See, those are the souls that were set apart or predestined from the foundation of the world, just like in Ephesians. Read.
And none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled.
Right, and none of them is lost. See, all those sons that were predestined will be saved, except the son of perdition, who he was already to be lost in bound in everlasting chains of darkness, the book says. See, he was already predestined to be lost, just like there was some to be. That's how the purpose works. There's some predestined to be lost and some predestined to be saved, just like the lump of the clay. Some to honor and some to vessels made to honor, some made to dishonor. In the glory of the tabernacle, where was it? We just read that scripture. I just looked at that tonight. Where in the tabernacle, there's vessels of gold and silver, and some are made to honor, some are made to dishonor. Was that in the scripture?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, might as well finish with that. Where was that? Yeah, I knew there was stuff.
2 Timothy
20th verse.
20?
20th.
Yeah.
But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor.
Right, and that's what he's talking about. It's going back to the tabernacle and the great house.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's talking about. In my Father's house are many mansions, and
Right.
if this earthly house of this tabernacle would dissolve, we have a house of Elohim.
Right.
And see, there's vessels made of to honor and vessels made to dishonor.
Right.
Those that are saved are the sons, and those that are lost were meant to be lost.
Right.
You know, and there's nothing we can do about it. You know, we should have comfort in that he's got everything under control, and that, you know, we're on the right side of this thing. We know that, and hallelujah. All right, with that, I'm going to take my seat. I have to go to work. I hope nobody got confused. All praises to Yahshua. Thank you.
This way. And our next speaker this evening will be Dr. Deb Cometti.
I'll just continue on with where Scott left off. Can I have Exodus, the 3rd chapter? And
Where do you want Exodus, Deb? 3 and
down,
3?
let's see. He's heard their cry. And he says, let's have Exodus 3 and 10.
Exodus 3 and 10. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
Okay, go ahead.
And Moses said unto Elohim, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? Mm-hmm. And he said, certainly I will be with thee.
And certainly I will be with thee. And that is a prelude to what we're talking about with the Holy Spirit in you. Because that is the only way that you're going to ever go up against Pharaoh, the devil, Satan, Nebuchadnezzar, any of the ones that showed these types and shadows of that mystery of iniquity that we've been talking about tonight. This is his kingdom. He's saying, certainly I will be with you, because if he wasn't with them, that's where the power was. And Moses gets the familiarity of the story that he brought these people out of the land of Egypt, but actually it was Joshua that was with Moses down here that performed these miracles to get these people out of here. But he's saying, certainly I will be with thee. Go ahead.
When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, you shall serve Elohim upon this mountain.
Okay, so he's giving him a prophecy, right? That when you do come out, not if and not maybe, but when you do come out of the land of Egypt, when you do come out of that bondage, something is going to take place that you're going to know that it was by my hand. See, what's going to happen? Certainly I will be with you. Read it again.
Certainly I will be with thee. This shall be a token unto thee.
And what's a token?
A sign.
A sign.
Yes.
This shall be the sign. See? And we've been talking tonight in principle about the signs of the Holy Spirit in you. Because when the Holy Spirit's in you, then you don't have the fear of the carnal world. Things happen, but the way that we take them in is different than the world. It's just like with Paul over there when he was doing his going through Asia and going through all the places that he went and he was preaching. When Paul put his hand in with the serpents, or Paul, you know, things happened to Paul, he was shipwrecked, he was beaten, things like that, people marveled that he came right up out of it. See, it's going to happen to us, but we're going to come out of it in a much different fashion than the world. Like some people never ever get over like the death of their spouse. They never ever ever are able to move on. Now, I'm not saying I've gone through that. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying they're unable to heal. And it caught my attention when Lloyd had that read in Exodus. Yahweh was the one that said, I will heal thee. See? And that's the blessings that we have, that he will heal us. Yes, you'll be affected. Yes, you'll go through these things. But he's saying, certainly I'll be with you. And this is the sign. When you get to the mount, you're going to worship me. And that's how we worship Yahshua now. And that's how we glorify Yahshua now, is by acknowledging the gifts that he's given us and using them. What would be worse than buying your 5-year-old a bike and him not wanting it or caring less, or you know, not wanting the gift, right? And no matter what you bought the child, he didn't want it. You see what I'm saying? We know and appreciate the gifts that we've been given, and so when we, in principle, get to the mount, we're going to worship Yahweh. And so his promise definitely came to pass, because what happened here, let's pick it up in Exodus, is it 24? 24 and 1. See, this is just the type. This is the example to show Yahweh spoke, it came to pass, he made it come to pass, and then he said, when you get up here, something else is going to happen. It's going to be different than what you knew down here. You worshipped gods, you worshipped a lot of different things. Your lifestyle was very different here. It was very hard. When you get up here, things are going to change. And that would be our testimony. When you get into that holy place, things are going to change. And they have. And it's been testified tonight by the folks that got on the floor and the ones that were witnessing in their chairs saying, yeah, I've experienced that. That's my testimony too. So go ahead and read that in Exodus.
24:1. And he said unto Moses, come up unto Yahweh, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off.
And worship ye afar off. Now Moses, Nadab, and Abihu, Aaron, 70 elders had no clue how to get to Yahweh. They had no idea how this should all take place. Yahweh, in his promise to a predestination to have the situation take place, tells them where to go, who's to come, what they should do, and who's organizing this. And he is the one that's given the commandments. And Lloyd talked about the laws or the commandments. And it comes very natural for us to just live in this commandment that he's given us of spirit law, to have the faith in the operation. Do you always understand it? No. Those secret things, they're of Yahweh. But the things that he's given us, in whatever measure, that's what we draw upon, and that's what we understand and know. So he's saying, Moses, this is where it's going to take place, on a mountain. Come unto me, go ahead.
And Moses alone shall come near Yahweh.
Right.
He shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him.
Nobody else. They didn't need to come. here's Moses, he's going to go up to the top, okay? And there's a lot of principles, a lot of ways to look at this, all witnesses to what's happening. But right now, it's Moses going to the top. Moses going to get something. Go ahead.
And Moses came and told the people all the words of Yahweh and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which Yahweh has said we will do.
Now, do you see how that's a fulfillment of what they were told in the 3rd chapter of Exodus? See, when you get to the mount, what were you going to do? You're going to worship me. Now, here's the way you're going to worship me. All the judgments and statutes that were told to you, Moses came down, brought them to the people, and the people said, we'll do them. So that was the way they agreed to worship. So all that whole promise that took place when they were in bondage down here came to pass. So when Scott was working about predestination, you can see these people did not have any other choice than to come up out of here. Because Yahweh had already set this in motion that when you get here, when he speaks, it stands. He spoke and boom, it was there. He had already spoken. When you get here, you're going to worship me. See, so it's the same idea with us, that when you come into the world, I'm going to set it up so much so that you're going to be listening, or somebody's going to invite you to where the truth is being preached, and you're going to hear the truth, and what are you going to do? You're going to receive the truth. Why? Because you're so smart? Why? Because you're so diligent? Why? Because no, you're going to hear the truth because Yahweh said you will. And it's just that easy, and it's just that beautiful. So we're looking at all these things happening in the world, but we're also looking and saying, we understand the predestination. Now, in the couple minutes we got left, we're going to go back to Ephesians, where Paul is once again, Paul's a great master in the law and the prophets. He studied at the feet of Gamaliel. He was somebody that was a Pharisee, not a Pharisee. What was he? Pharisee of Pharisees?
Pharisee of Pharisees.
Is that okay? Yes. So he's really a master on this stuff. He's not one that's taking it lightly. So he is looking at all the stuff that happened with the children of Israel. He's looking at the examples in the prophets of the things that's taken place. And he sees that each time these things have been set up by Yahweh. And it's all predestined. And that's where, Lloyd was saying how he loved the story that was in Samuel about Saul. But Saul was predestined to go down. See, from the beginning, Saul was predestined to go down. And the whole thing plays out, and we can get a lot out of it, but not to say it was all predestined. Now, do you say that's not fair? Well, that's what you're talking about. Some made to honor, and some made to dishonor. Right? Who are we to say? And Paul even says that in Romans. Who are we to say to Yahweh, I don't like, your plan? All we can do is magnify him even more at the glory of his plan. We can't focus and concentrate on the things that are over there. See, if he's pure justice, and we just understand this much of justice, you got to let that ride. You got to let that be in him. See what I'm saying? So let's read this in Ephesians, where we want to pick it up in 9, where Paul is saying all this was designated for a designed end. All this was going to culminate in Yahshua on the cross.
Ephesians 1 and 9.
1 and 9.
Having made known unto us the mystery of his will,
Right.
according to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times, he might gather together in one all things in the Messiah, both which are in heaven and which are on earth, even in him.
Now, how does he understand all that unless he's looked back and he's seen what's happened to the forefathers? And he's seen the things that took place with the children of Israel down here in Egypt and how they were purposed to come up. And all of them came up in Yahshua. See, Yahshua was the one It's written as Joshua, but there's no J, right? So there's no Joshua. So that's Yahshua back there, and he's planning and organizing this whole thing to get those people out of a bondage through a path that they knew not, and to get them into this land of the wilderness. But it's still, they're provided. There's not one thing that they're not provided for here for 40 years. Let's just say that, okay? So he's still the one doing it. Go ahead.
In whom also we have obtained an inheritance, being predestinated according to the purpose of him who worketh all things after the counsel of his own will.
Of his own will. So see, he could have just made it so that this never happened. He orchestrated them to come down into Egypt and be slaves. He could have made that never happen. But see, how would you have seen and had demonstrated all the power of that name if he didn't have all this take place? So much that Rahab up here in Canaan land hears about it, and they're afraid of that name of Yahweh. See what I'm saying? Because he had all this take place, and they heard about it, and they were like, whoa. And they were saying nobody, no nation has ever had Yahweh deal with them like we have. See, and Yahweh spoke to them, and I mean, it was something. It was fantastic the way this all took place. So much so that they couldn't even stand it. Moses, we can't hear it, you go. You see what I'm saying? But nobody had had this happen before. So in Ephesians, read again where he's talking about all these gathered in one.
That in the dispensation of the fullness of time.
At the 430-year mark, when they had been down here that long, and not 1 minute earlier, 1 minute later.
He might gather together in one all things in the Messiah, both which are in heaven,
both in heaven, and which are on earth. Even in Yahshua, because that's how this one son, doesn't he call him the one son? My one son is going to come up out of Egypt, and I'm going to bring him so, right? And they're following a cloud, and that's why it's so fantastic when we say, well, that happens to you every day and every night, that you follow your cloud. That's so incredible, see, that he designed your brain gray and white matter, and you can't move this pointer without your brain telling your arm to do it. It's the same way that the children of Israel, this body, this one son, couldn't move without the cloud going first. And they went through, right, and he took care of them, and they got through out into this wilderness where they would worship him, being led by the cloud. And that's why, you know, it's not a, just anatomy and physiology. It's something to show you the power of Yahweh setting the whole thing up so you can't miss him. See, it is definitely anatomy and physiology because you can prove this through the medical books, but the idea is, here's a cloud, and that's where Yahweh dwelt, and here's a cloud, and that's where Yahweh dwelt, and here's a cloud, and that's where Yahweh dwelt. And what does he do? He frees you. He brings you up out, and that was always the plan. That was always the design, to get you out from under the darkness and the bondage and the slavery, and to get you up here to know his words, to know his will. See, and that's what we're doing tonight. That's why we say we've talked about a lot of tragedies, and instead of throwing in the towel like they did in the 60s and said God is dead and there is no God and that kind of, instead of throwing in the towel, we know that Yahweh has all this in his plan, and we wait to understand it. And didn't Lloyd have it read where it said, kill everything?
Yes, in Samuel.
Now, that's hard, and that's why a lot of people don't like the Old Testament. Let's get over to the New Testament where, Jesus is love and kindness and, that kind of thing. They don't understand it. That's a harsh thing, but, Yahweh put breath and life into every single thing that he said kill. So once again, it's his will. It's his way. And if he wanted to take that breath of life out of them, that was up to him. And he said, kill them all. Take
everything, right? What did the babies do? What did the sucklings do? And who was going to kill the babies? I mean, that's harsh. You see what I'm saying? But it's his breath of life that he was taken back. It wasn't up to Saul to decide. And you know, if you think about it, Saul was very selfish and he was afraid of the people. But see, like Scott said, hey, if I get to offer up all these sacrifices to Yahweh, I don't have to use my own. You know what I mean? This will keep us going for a couple weeks or whatever. And then he said, oh, we chose the best. Really? You see what I'm saying? And you know, it's how Saul did not have the heart for Yahweh or to be obedient. And didn't we have read just not too long ago how David was a man after Yahweh's heart? Right. David did a lot of bum stuff, but his heart was for Yahweh. And when they pointed things out to him, he repented. When they pointed things out to Saul, he went haywire. Wasn't he always visited by the mystery of iniquity? And they had to play the harp to settle him down. He went haywire. He never had the heart to bow and to, you know, and to repent. And I'll tell you, with Saul, how did he die?
He fell on his sword.
That's right. That's right. He fell on his sword, right? And what happened? What did David do? David killed the servant that let him do it. He killed his own servant because that was Yahweh's chosen. So see once again how David is a man after Yahweh's heart and how obedient he is. And we talk a lot about the obedience of David, and when things were going haywire with what looked like haywire, David said, hey, don't you realize Yahweh's the one telling that guy to throw stones down at me? Let's not get nervous here. You see what I'm saying? Once again, it seems like crazy things happening, but we understand the will of Yahweh. Now, David was anointed, and Samuel told David he was anointed from this day forward. So David's got to keep that in mind when things get tough. That's all. That's very simple. And we're anointed. We're predestined, and we've got to remember that when it's not a walk in the park. See, that we are still the chosen. And like, you know, so aptly put, it's very easy to remember you're the chosen when you're in the MHP. It's a little tougher to remember it down here when things stink and it's hot and you can't breathe and you're struggling and you don't know what's going on and you wish you could just get out of there and you're still stuck there. Yeah. But what is this pattern? It's a cycle. It's an absolute promise of resurrection each time. But when you're in the death and you're in the burial, is it always so easy to remember that, right? That's why we hold each other's arms up, like those two held up Moses' arms, right? And when the arms came down, what happened? They started losing, right? And when the arms were held up, then there was victory. There's something to these things. They sound awkward and they sound strange to our ears now, but there's something to this stuff about being held up by the faith of the operation. Let's just end with that. It's Colossians 2:14 or 3:14. The faith of the operation. Colossians 2:10 through 15. We're just talking about that faith in Yahshua, and that's just been the thread that I've heard all night is just, you know, this stuff is going on, and you gotta have some faith in the operation that when everything's not ducky, you trust Yahshua. Colossians 2:10.
2:10.
Mm-hmm.
And ye are complete in him, which is the head of all principality and power.
Do we believe that? That we're complete in him? Okay. See, then you're not going to have a problem with the Big Ten. You're not going to have to worry about a graven image just in case. If you're complete in him, you trust him. You don't need, you know, the angel on the dashboard. Whatever happens, happens. Right. Because you trust him. You're complete in Yahshua. Go ahead.
In whom also you are circumcised with circumcision made without hand, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of the Messiah. Buried with him in baptism, where also you're risen with him through the faith of the operation of Elohim.
That's what I wanted to key in on. You're risen. You've gone through a circumcision, a death, a burial, a resurrection by the faith of the operation without hands. There's nothing you did. There's nothing I could do for you. There's nothing the minister could do for you. There's nothing, no place you could drive, no pope that can manage this for you. You're complete in him by the faith of the operation. And that's what he's asking for now. And when you acknowledge the gifts, you glorify him. See, when your son takes that bike and drives down the road and shows all his friends at the playground, look at what my dad got me, isn't it, fabulous? That's the glory that the dad's looking for, that you like the bike. And see, when you acknowledge these gifts and you use these gifts, you glorify Yahshua. And it can't just be a constant ivory tower, just like he told Job. Satan said, pull the fence off, pull the guards off, and see what happens. See if Job, curses you then. And it got pretty thick there for a while, but Job did not falter. He did not curse Yahshua. And what happened? Did he not come out with way more than he went into the thing with? Yes, granted, it was ugly. I don't ever want to go through that, losing children and everything. It was ugly. But guess what? He came out tenfold. See, because he would not curse Yahshua. And that's what we're talking about. We come down here to bring these things out and to lift up Yahshua and to lift up the truth so that we see that he is worthy. See, and they came out here and they found this is a worthy Elohim we got here. He's going to fight our battles. He's going to take care of us, provide for us, love us, cherish, the whole 9 yards. Hope you got something out of that. Thank you. Thanks, Peg. Oh, yeah.
I thank everyone for coming. Remind you, we meet here Wednesdays at 7:30 and Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Wednesday at 7:30, Saturday at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Y'all please rise for the doxology. Now unto Yahshua, who alone is able to keep us from falling and present us faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. To the only wise Yahshua, our Savior, belongs glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and for all times. We'll all say, Hallelujah.